Welcome, debtors and borrowers, to Bankruptcy Bailout, because debt ruins lives, not bankruptcy. So today we're going to have a little bit of fun. You've probably become aware that there's this artificial intelligence chatbot called ChatGPT. I'm just going to call it Chat for short. And it's been making a lot of waves and a lot of people having fun with it. So we're going to have a little bit of fun with it, and we're going to pit that chatbot against myself on the topic of bankruptcy. So what I did was I asked ChatGPT what are the most common questions about bankruptcy, and then I asked it to answer those questions. Now, I have not read its answers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and answer the questions that the chatbot thinks are the most commonly asked questions, and then we'll compare my answer to the chatbot's answer. So for a little context on me, my name is Matt Burkus. I'm a Colorado-based bankruptcy and student loan relief attorney, and I've been doing this for about 20 years. Okay, and so let's get into it, and let's first set a little context here about what ChatGPT actually is. So I asked it. I mean, I've done some reading about it as well, but I actually asked it. So let me give you its answers to what it is. So the chatbot is a large language model developed by OpenAI. It is trained on a data set of conversational text, which that's important to note, and is able to generate human-like responses to a wide range of topics. It can be used for tasks such as language translation, question answering, and text completion. All right. And then I asked it, well, what can't the chatbot do? Well, it's a machine learning model and therefore has some, this is its answers, has some limitations. Some of the things that it can't do include understanding context of background of information that's not provided. Well, of course. I mean, when I'm answering questions on the internet, I can't address when there's no context or background for information not provided. It can't make reasoning or logical deductions. That's interesting. Doesn't understand sarcasm or irony. It can't understand non-textual information. So if you put an image in there, it doesn't know what to do with it. And it can't make moral or ethical decisions. And another thing it can't do is it doesn't have a search function. So its responses are generated based on this conversational database. It doesn't go out to the internet and search for information to respond to your question. And that's an interesting thing to note here about what this chatbot really is. It's using this conversational database in order to generate responses that it thinks is responsive to the question. All right, so I asked it about, well, what does your database consist of? And here's its answer. The chatbot dataset is the largest dataset of conversational text used to train the language model. It consists of a diverse set of conversations and dialogues, including text from forums, chat rooms, and other online platforms. The dataset is designed to provide the model with a wide range of examples of how people communicate, including different languages, accents, and writing styles. So the dataset is pre-processed and tokenized so that the model can be trained to generate text in a similar format. The translation of that, as best as I can understand it, is that although we're calling this artificial intelligence, it doesn't really know what it's telling you, okay? It's basically saying, hey, I've read this in a million different places, and this is how people responded to this particular inquiry. So let's be clear on we have to be clear kind of on what this chatbot really is. It's just trying to interpret a proper linguistic response to an inquiry. It's not a knowledge base. It's not like Wikipedia where it has actual information and then the language model understands what it's saying. It's just being responsive because it's seen lots of various responses to this question, and therefore it's spitting out what it thinks should be in a response. All right, so with that out of the way, all right, so let's get into it. So I asked the chatbot, what are the top questions about bankruptcy? So I'm going to give my answer, and then I will read the chatbot's answer. Now, I haven't seen the chatbot answers, so let's get into this and have a little bit of fun, all right? First questions. I'm going to go through the first 5 questions, even though I have 10. I'm going to just be a 2-part series. What is bankruptcy and how does it work? So my answer. So bankruptcy is a legal proceeding filed in federal court that allows an individual to either eliminate or discharge all or some of their debt, or to structure a payment plan to pay back a portion or some of that debt. So it's initiated by the filing of a petition with the bankruptcy court, and the ultimate goal of bankruptcy is a discharge. Now, the discharge acts as a permanent injunction against anyone taking any action to collect a debt that is dischargeable in bankruptcy. All right, so there's a basic definition of bankruptcy. Here's the chatbot's answer to what is bankruptcy. Okay. Bankruptcy is a legal process that allows individuals or businesses to eliminate or repay some or all of their debts under the protection of the bankruptcy court. Straightforward answer, not a bad answer actually, not too bad. So I'll give it an 8 out of 10 on that one. Number 2 question, what are the different types of bankruptcy? All right, so here's my answer. So there's really consumer bankruptcy and business bankruptcy. And in consumer bankruptcy, you'll either file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which is your fresh start bankruptcy that typically leads to the elimination of debt, or you'll file a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, which is a way to restructure the payments of your debt to something that you can afford. So in Chapter 13 bankruptcy, what you're really telling the court is you're saying, look, I can't afford to pay my creditors what they want, but I can afford to pay them something, and that's what you pay, and then any remaining debt is then eliminated at the end of the Chapter 13 bankruptcy. There's also Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which is primarily filed by corporations, but can be used by individuals and small businesses if their situation dictates the filing of such. There's also Chapter 12 bankruptcy, which is a restructuring specifically for agriculture businesses. Okay, so that's a different chapter. So that's my answer. Chatbot answer. The 2 most common types of bankruptcy for individuals are Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. Chapter 7 is known as a liquidation bankruptcy, where non-exempt assets are sold to pay off creditors, while Chapter 13 is a reorganization bankruptcy, where the individual creates a repayment plan to pay off debts over a period of 3 to 5 years. Not a bad answer. Okay, I didn't address the asset side of it. I was addressing what happens in the benefit side of the bankruptcy. So just 2 slightly different approaches on describing the different chapters of bankruptcy. Number 3, how do I know if bankruptcy is right option for me? All right, so I actually have a whole thing on figuring this out. It's actually called the Burkus debt formula. So, but the sort of anecdotal indication that you need to file bankruptcy is that if you're struggling to pay your bills and you really don't have money left over at the end of the month, you probably need to file bankruptcy. However, we have it down to a science, or I have it down to a science or to a mathematical calculation, where basically you determine your debt to income ratio. Okay, so you take your yearly income divided by your debt, all right, or total unsecured debt, and then that spits out a number, and multiply that by 100, and you get your percentage, right? So if you have $60,000 a year in salary and $30,000 a year, or $30,000 in unsecured debt, you have a 50% debt to income ratio. And then the analysis is that if you are if you make over $60,000 a year and your debt to income ratio is 35% or more, you're a good bankruptcy candidate. If you make under $35,000 a year, or under $60,000 a year, then the debt to income ratio is only 25% or greater. And frankly, if you make under $40,000 a year, you really shouldn't have any debt at all. But those are the formulas that I use to determine whether someone is a candidate for bankruptcy, because it allows it to be an objective evaluation of a person's position. Because what we find at those ratios is that too much of your after-tax disposable income is paying down debt, and you're basically trapped in this debt cycle, because then you have no savings and you keep using your credit cards. So you get trapped in this debt cycle when your debt to income ratio exceeds those amounts. All right, the chatbot answer, which I doubt will be that elaborate. Let's see, number 3, yeah. If you're struggling to make ends meet, have more debt than you can pay off, or are facing a lawsuit or foreclosure, bankruptcy may be a good option for you. That's a good succinct answer, actually. So again, that's the anecdotal approach to whether you need to file bankruptcy. So not a bad answer. What are the eligibility requirements for filing bankruptcy? That's a technical question, and you also have to be specific about which chapter of bankruptcy. But basically, in order to file bankruptcy, to qualify for Chapter 7, your income has to be under a certain threshold. So bankruptcy is means tested, which just means that there's a way to determine whether you're eligible for Chapter 7 bankruptcy or whether you're going to be a Chapter 13 bankruptcy on a monthly payment plan. And it's based on your income and whether you have enough disposable income to at least pay something to your debt. So part one of that means test is what we call the over-under. All right, so what it does is it takes the median income for your state based on household size, so it varies by household size. And then if you're under that amount, so if the median income is $80,000 for a household of 3 and you make less than $80,000, then presumptively you qualify for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. If you make over $80,000 a year in that scenario, then you would presumptively be a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. And then there's a whole slew of other analysis that can take place depending on the individual specific circumstances. But the main idea as far as eligibility to file bankruptcy is, one, you should have some debt to discharge or some benefit to get from the bankruptcy, and B, you have to qualify based on income to either be able to file either a Chapter 7 bankruptcy if your income is low enough, or you have to have some disposable income to file Chapter 13 bankruptcy. All right, the chatbot answer. To be eligible for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, individuals must pass a means test to show that their income is below the state median. For Chapter 13, there is no means test, not quite true, but there are limits on the amount of debt an individual can have. Okay, not a bad answer. I mean, basically the same thing I said, nice and succinct. It's a little off on Chapter 13, although you don't use the means test necessarily to determine eligibility for Chapter 13 bankruptcy. You do have to still take the means test, and it establishes at least one way of determining what your monthly payment will be in there. So, okay. And lastly, the number 5 question, according to ChatGPT, how does bankruptcy affect my credit score? All right, that's a very common question. I'm surprised it's number 5 on this list. All right. So the easy answer, okay, is that we're specifically talking about credit score here, not credit report. But anyway, so how this works is that, yeah, sure, in and of itself, a bankruptcy is a gross, what we call a gross negative on your credit, right? Because it's a negative event, so it has a gross negative. But you have to put that in context, because most people who file bankruptcy already have credit scores that are in the toilet, okay? Because they're missing payments, they're in collection, they're late on bills, they got lawsuit files against them, they got foreclosures going on. So your credit's already in the toilet, okay? Sorry to say. So the negative effect of the bankruptcy is counteracted by all the other negatives on the account, on the credit report. Because what happens is that when you file bankruptcy, all the bad things on your credit report stop being bad because they all get closed out because of the bankruptcy. All right, so it's not that they disappear from your credit report, but they all get closed out. And how credit scoring works is it's looking at the most recent things that are going on and doesn't care about older things. So as time passes, all this old junk that's impacting your credit score becomes less and less a factor in your credit score, and that includes the bankruptcy as well. So most people who file Chapter 7 bankruptcy can rebuild their credit within 1 to 3 years and easily get back into the low 600s, if not the 700s, within that time frame of bankruptcy, or within that time frame after bankruptcy. All right, so although the bankruptcy itself is a gross negative, it's often net neutral in that it fixes whatever was wrong on your credit report before, and so the score just kind of balances itself out. So if you were already in the 500s before you filed bankruptcy, you're still going to be in the 500s after filing bankruptcy. Nothing is going to change, but now you have a starting point to rebuild from there. All right, now the chatbot answer. So filing for bankruptcy can have a negative impact on your credit score. However, credit score will improve over time as you make payments and reestablish credit. True. Exactly. I have videos on how to rebuild credit after bankruptcy and so forth. And also I have videos that talk about all these different questions, which I'll try to link in the description below if you want more information on some of the topics we've discussed today. But this was kind of fun to challenge the ChatGPT program and see how it answers the questions of bankruptcy versus how an experienced attorney would answer the bankruptcy. I would give it probably these are very short, succinct answers to it. So, as far as that type of answer, not too bad. Most of the answers there are accurate in the information it provides. And I played around with it on more technical questions, and it's going to lose. It starts losing its credibility there because it doesn't know what to do with the information, or it starts getting very repetitive. But anyway, if you're contemplating bankruptcy, do please contact a bankruptcy attorney in your state to help you with your issues. My name is Matt Burkus. I'm based in Colorado, so I can help people in the state of Colorado for bankruptcy and offer free initial phone consultations. And I also offer student loan consultations, and I can help anyone anywhere in the country with student loans, and I do charge a nominal fee for that consultation. Best of luck to you.